Go live now. Okay, LinkedIn, you are blowing it. Okay. All right, we're not going to have LinkedIn here. We're going to get Instagram, and we've got TikTok. All right, what's going on, everybody? All right, happy Wednesday. The day after. Anybody sleep last night? That was a crazy day. I don't know why that's not working. I should have LinkedIn set up. It's just not. All right, we'll see if it happens later. What's going on, everybody? All right, let's get this going. I'm a loan officer. Let's connect. Rocco, hit me on DM or email me. Thoughts on Trump? My thoughts, I did not think it was going to be called that early. I did not think it was going to be a blowout. I thought it was going to be more competitive. I wasn't sure if we were going to have a clear winner tonight. I did think he was going to win, but I was not expecting it to go that fast. Before I get going, can you guys just confirm, can you hear me okay? How's audio? Can you guys hear me okay? Would you like to smoke meth with me? Absolutely not. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Yes, there's a lag. That's unfortunate. Okay, you can hear me, but there's a lag. That's a bummer. All right. Biggest advantage of Trump winning that we can take advantage of as real estate investors. I would say more than likely the Jobs Act, that basically the big tax credit that came in 2017. So the tax incentives, opportunity zones, 100% bonus depreciation. I think all of that is coming back now. I think there's an argument that it's permanent. So that would benefit real estate. Mikey, don't pull your punches. Who did you want to win? Ooh. Well, that's a good question. For me personally, I thought out of Kamala and Trump, I thought Trump would be better. But that is my opinion. You think we could storm? No. Good, just delayed. Okay, that's good to know. Mortgage rates jumped today and have been on the rise. Yeah, I saw that. So I think it's going to take some time to kind of figure this out, why they're on the rise. If you guys looked, equities had a big jump. Treasuries fell off. I think what you're seeing right now is there's an argument that Trump's plan, at least from what people think, is going to be inflationary. The idea is if you hit the tax incentives, hit the deregulation, and I think their view of his use of tariffs, you can make the argument that some of those components can be inflationary for sure. Now, I think the big factor, you haven't seen that many people talk about this, but I'm not sold on him throwing these huge tariffs on companies. I think he actually uses the tariffs as leverage. And so I'm not sold that we are going to see big inflation. But yes, of course, is there a case where inflation can come back? There totally is. We need to be careful of that one for sure. You think crypto will pop more? Crypto went nuts after that announcement. I think that's probably good for. I think this is probably good for crypto. I think this is probably good for crypto. Yeah. I plan on expanding my business into South San Diego. I'm fired up. Yeah, I have properties in San Diego. I really like it out there as well. What about 1031? Nothing changing on 1031. Well, if you're asking me what I think about 1031s, or if you're saying what happens to 1031s with a Trump campaign. So give me some clarity on that one. Can you do drywall? I cannot do drywall. No. Nikki May 6, I didn't see your question, my man. I'm sorry. You want to hit me again with it? What do you think will happen to the construction industry? All right. So my view on real estate, and this is probably one that we were going to see benefit real estate regardless of who won, because it's pretty much a known thing now that housing is an issue, right? We are undersupplied. And so I think you have two different approaches, and I have an opinion on what approach would have been better, but both approaches actually would have created a big opportunity for real estate investors. So as far as construction goes, I think the construction industry is going to start taking off. But what I will say, I think the construction industry would have taken off regardless of who won. I think it just would have been two different approaches. And kind of what I'm assuming is going to happen with Trump, I think the approach with Trump is going to be more basically incentive-based deregulation and driving the private market to fix it. I think the Harris approach would have been more government subsidies and basically the government incentivizing the private market to build for the government. And so both would have meant real estate investors could have made a lot of money. But for me personally, I prefer the private market doing things. I think the private market does it better always because they're incentivized to do so. So my expectation is construction is going to pick up. I think this is going to be good for construction, but that isn't necessarily based on a Trump win. That's more based on real estate is significantly undersupplied, and we are hitting that point where you're going to start seeing institutional investors come back into the market. I was at a conference not that long ago, and you could tell that the institutional investors were now looking and we're getting ready to come back in. When they come back in, I think real estate's going through the roof. I think we're going right back into where we were 2 years ago. Working for a GC in the multifamily area, we are more excited for this outcome. And I agree with you, private does it better. Yep, that's right. The Amish will do the work. You know what? I know this girl who's an influencer on TikTok, and she built a home. I think it was a home or office in PA, and she had the Amish build it for her. She documented the whole thing, and it looked awesome. It looked really good. Nathan, don't you think that the mass deportation Trump wants to do will hurt the economy? Okay, that's a really good question. So there are parts about this that you can make the argument that, okay, so if you're looking at migration, right? Maybe it's not necessarily migration, because I think the argument isn't about migration. It's about how immigrants come into the company. I think legally is really the debate. But the argument you have for the economy is because you have so many migrants coming in and they're taking on jobs that I guess you can make the argument. You can either make two arguments. Americans don't want the jobs, or we have too many jobs and need more people to fulfill them. And that is good for the economy. And so do you run a scenario where if you deport illegal immigrants, does that now mean less workers and a hit to the economy? I think so. I think there's definitely a scenario where that could have a negative impact. I guess the question just becomes, and this is probably where more of the macro debate is it better to have a policy that is maybe a short-term pain but has a long-term benefit, is probably where I think the Trump administration would argue. But there is this, this is like a realistic, I think, outcome of his philosophy. His philosophy is that we should be building American jobs, right? Bring everything back to America. He calls it the American first model. There is a part of that will be inflationary, right? Like if you can buy goods from other countries and other countries basically can pay people nothing to create product, well, yeah, if you're purchasing it cheaper for than what we can make it in America, now you have a higher profit margin as a business. And so there definitely is a case to be made that if you bring all the jobs back into America and we can't compete with, slave labor somewhere else, that's inflationary. That's true that it's inflationary. I guess the argument just becomes, is it better to do that for us? Is it better to have Americans have first shot? And then I think maybe there's a secondary argument. Should we be incentivizing countries that do participate in slave labor to create goods that we're purchasing? If we're not purchasing them, you in theory remove the incentive to do it. But I don't know. What do you guys think on that one? That's for sure a big question. I think there's a lot of components to this. What do you guys think about that part of it? Crazy watching Mike Taylor in skate videos to where he is now. Wow. Do you skate still? Dela, I don't skate enough. I skate basically when my kids want me to skate, or when P-Rod and Malto, or maybe even Cole, because his girlfriend lives out here, is in town and they call me to go skate. Every once in a while, I will meet them at Paul's Park to skate, but it is not enough and it is not pretty. All right, what do you guys think about the conversation we were just talking about? Out of anything, when it comes to any presidency, I just want the kids to eat for free in schools. America owned. Many industries don't have the capacity or logistics to make American-made products. That hurts them. So that would be real name James. That would be the argument that it will be inflationary, right? Awesome, man. Grew up watching you, homie. Thanks for the response. You got it. Appreciate it. Americans do not want to work in the fields. There's part of me that thinks it should be done slowly to mitigate the impact. That's a fair view, 100%. Homes will not get finished. I don't agree with that, actually. I think there is all the capacity and upside to get homes finished. I actually don't see that one as a concern. Have you ever had a 9-to-5? If so, if yes, what made you full send entrepreneurship? Okay, so Skylar, that's a really good question. That's a cool question. So my very first job was not a 9-to-5. My first job was more like a side hustle. My dad was a wedding photographer, and I would come with him at weddings and I would assist him. So he had multiple cameras. This was back when you had film. I would change the film. I'd set up the gear, kind of be his little wingman. And I got paid to do that, and I usually get tipped, and that was like pretty good money. And then straight after that, I got sponsored from skateboarding, started making money skateboarding. So that wasn't a 9-to-5. I was self-employed. And then my first business, I actually wasn't even an employee of my first business. We sold that company. I started Commune, and then I made myself an employee of Commune. And so I guess that's maybe like a hybrid. Like I am the president of the firm. I have, a portion of my income is W-2 income. So I am an employee and on payroll of my firm. And I get in the office at 7 on Mondays. Monday through Friday. I leave the office around 5. So I guess kind of, but at the end of the day, I am the boss. So I get a little bit more flexibility. But no, I didn't ever work a traditional 9-to-5 for someone else and then got into entrepreneurship. I got into entrepreneurship more because I was a pro skateboarder and just had this idea that because I didn't go to college, no one would hire me for anything that was worth no, that's not the fair way to say it. I thought that because I didn't go to college, someone wasn't going to hire me for the amount of money I wanted to make to live the lifestyle I wanted. So I thought entrepreneurship was my only option. So I started creating businesses. Can you beat Malto and skate? Josh, I cannot. Definitely not now. I couldn't beat the Flow Kid at skate right now. Only thing good in 2008 was the skate industry. The skate industry wasn't awful in 2008. Are you still involved in Sovereign? For Sovereign, I'm not that involved, but the truth is I was never that involved. I kind of acted more as like a board member when I was on the team. It was like high level stuff, but I never ran the day-to-day operations of Sovereign. California policies are destructive to small businesses, and having to navigate that will be tough. Lamar, that's absolutely right. In my opinion, it is very difficult to do business in California, and it makes it hard to do it here. Do you think creating generational wealth will look different for our kids' future? That's a really good question, Dean. I think, yes, I think it's going to look different. The reason why I think it's going to look different is because just like it changed as we moved into the industrial revolution, we are going through that same kind of change up now. We're entering into something that we aren't fully aware of what it's going to do to the economy, your ability to make money. It's going to be a change up. And so what we did to grow wealth is going to look, in my opinion, nothing like what our kids do to build wealth. And so I'm just not, I haven't totally grasped what how impactful AI really is going to be and what that's going to do to our productivity levels, what that's going to do to the economy. It has the ability to be like huge. And so if it is, then yeah, the way our kids do this is going to be different. But there's all the philosophy or the disciplines are going to remain the same. Our kids are still going to struggle with spending money and saving money. Not meaning they don't make enough to save. It doesn't matter how much you make. It's hard to save money. Now, you can make the argument, of course, that if you make more, it's easier to save. That's true, but what we see is people that make more money spend more money. So there's a behavioral aspect to us as humans where we're not good at saving money, or it's hard to create the discipline. Our kids are going to struggle with that the same way we struggle with it. Now, the thing that's probably really going to change is they're going to have more assets available to them to invest in than we had. Like for us, the majority, like for me, when I first started investing, it was stocks and bonds. That was basically it, and private REITs. Now, oh my gosh, there's so much more available. Alternatives and private investments that were only for the wealthy, they're not there for everyone yet, but they are there now for a larger group of people. Your private real estate, private credit, venture, private equity, that used to be only like for the few that had access to deals. It has gotten a lot larger. The gate hasn't been broken down yet, but I think we're getting there. As far as crypto goes, that's a whole different monster. I think that's a real asset class. We're not like there yet as far as like mass adoption and like the majority of people viewing it as an alternative investment, but we'll get there and they'll have more options for sure. And I think their ability to make more money is going to be greater than ours. If inflation and labor somehow goes down, will restaurants ever reduce pricing, or will they take advantage of past menu increases? That's a really good question. So this is the hardest thing about inflation, and this is why it's so painful. And it goes back to the Fed or the central banks. We are in a constant inflationary moment. Now, it's usually low and controlled, but we always have inflation. And the moments that we go into a deflationary moment, if you watch, the Fed just starts pumping money into the system. So they create an inflationary move through printing money that combats deflation. They don't want deflation. And so what that ends up meaning, one, yes, you can make the argument that that's better for the economy because deflation does have an impact to business. It 100% does. But the challenge, or the part that's bad about it, is when the value of our dollar gets scraped, it never rebounds from it. And so the only way to kind of get back to neutral is if you see your income start outpacing inflation at a significant rate. And that I think is just harder to do than a deflationary moment and having the dollar get to a position where it can just buy more than it was able to the year before. And so, do I think restaurants' prices are going to go down? No. Unless we go into a massive, massive, massive recession. You've got to watch demand just bottom out. All right. Isn't inflation down right now? It's like 2.4%. Nathan, inflation is down, but the reason why it's so painful is from 21 and 22, the hot years where it's like almost 20%, that's not going away. That's now baked into the cake. So even though inflation this year is down, we're still not able to buy as much as we were 2 years ago. So people still feel underwater. The only way you really get back to where we were prior is when, income just, significantly outpaces inflation or there's a deflationary moment. Do you realize how cheap it is elsewhere? Ethical, what are we talking right now? Are we talking real estate, cost of living, all? And when you say everywhere, do you mean throughout America or do you mean globally? What is your outlook on precious metals? Richard, I haven't looked at precious metals in the last 4 hours, but the value was falling with the Trump win. Is that still going on? I imagine so. Precious metals, I'm not bullish on precious metals personally. What photographer took the cool looking photo behind you? That is Alex. Alex is the photographer for Sovereign and for Commune. He's awesome. Your live contains themes that may not find. Whoa, that's crazy. Dang, that is nuts. On TikTok, they restricted my live. Why the heck did they restrict my live? Whoa, that is nuts. Did I say anything? Let me ask you guys on Instagram. That is wild. I just peeked and my TikTok live was restricted because I said something uncomfortable. Even though we're talking about some politics and we might have different opinions, does anyone think that we did this in a way that was either disrespectful, not like a good conversation, or did we do anything that would merit a restriction? What do you guys think? I don't think I said anything that should have got a restriction. What do you guys think? On Instagram, TikTok, I can't even, that is nuts. This is so chill. Raptor, I mean, wait, is this Raptor? Dude, how are you, brother? I legit miss you. I think about the times that we had on Santa Cruz. Oh my gosh, that was so good. This is so chilled. No way, didn't hear anything unreasonable. I mean, we were even talking about some different opinions. Can't wait for the censorship end. No way. Dang, that is nuts. Maybe slavery comments, my best guess. Oh, well, my lives shouldn't get restricted because somebody says something in the comments. I didn't hear anything unreasonable. Dang, this is nuts. What the heck? I can't believe that. TikTok, do you guys think I said anything unreasonable? Live just got restricted? That is crazy. Let me know if you guys think I said anything out of line. That is wild. The only thing I could have think of was the Trump thing. Yeah, but you know what though? I mean, did I say anything crazy about Trump? We're basically just saying he won, and this is probably my expectation on how his policy is going to be implemented into the economy, and we covered the good and the bad. That is crazy. I mentioned Donnie's name. We did say that Trump won. I don't know how you don't say that. Yeah, that's wild. Okay. Dang. First 10K, how are you using it? First time buying in UK. What a good question. All right, what a good question. Okay, so how am I using 10K? If I got my first 10K, I'm going to go back because what I would do now is actually different than what I would have done when I got my first 10K. When I got my first 10K, let's see what I did actually? I was pretty conservative with it. Back then, I didn't have a lot of expenses. So I think I put 20% of it into like a cushion. So I put $2,000, and granted, this was 20 years ago. I put $2,000 into a cushion. And then I want to say I maxed out my Roth IRA. So that was back, gosh, I don't even know what the cap was on an IRA back then, but I'm pretty sure I maxed out my Roth IRA. And then, okay, that's probably what I would have done back then, was have some cushion, put money into my Roth IRA. Knowing what I know now, if I could go back, I still would have had the cushion, but I would have probably looked to see if there were any opportunities that I could invest in myself to then go out and make more money. I was a pro skateboarder back then, so probably I would have looked at, okay, do I have 10 grand's not enough, but if I had the opportunity to buy a warehouse or rent a warehouse with a bunch of other pro skateboarders and put a little training facility in there, would I then become better at skateboarding and be able to make more money? Could I hire a filmer to stick around me 24/7 so that I could basically put more content out there? Would that help me make more money? That's probably what I would have thought back then. Now, I would have probably put that money into learning or taking courses on communication, speaking, and sales would probably be how I would invest in myself if I could go back. What I would do now with 10 grand, I'm just in a different position now. So an extra 10 grand for me would probably just go back into the machine and would most likely just go back into real estate. Very good answer. I appreciate that. Who gave you your first 10K? Okay, so for me, I got to my first 10K this way. I brought Kareem Campbell in to negotiate my S contract when I was an AM, and he got them to pay me $2,500 a month, which was huge when I was 19 years old? That was huge. 20? Let's see, City Stars. I was on City Stars at this time. I think I was making $1,500 a month. I was on Maddox. How much was I making on Maddox? $1,500 a month. And so did I have any other sponsors? I'm not sure if I had any other sponsors, but that was basically my income, and I wasn't even coming close to spending that. So I was saving money to get to my first 10K. What got magical for me is I turned pro, I started making more money, and I lived off the same amount. So I probably got to my first 10K the year I turned pro, which was, when did I turn pro? 2003 maybe? All right. Bro, I saw you at Street League in 2012 and skated for years wearing Nikes, and now we're both real estate investors. Crazy. Anyways, glad I don't have to worry about 40% capital gains and unrealized gains. It's Drake. Dude, I'm so stoked that we originally connected from skateboarding and we're now both investing in real estate. That's so rad. Where would you start if you were going to jump into the real estate industry today? Really good question. If I was going to jump in, I would go straight to housing. I would go towards, right now, I would go towards building homes, building condos, building townhouses, or building apartments. That's kind of where I would go, because there's such a crazy opportunity right now with there being the housing crisis that if you can build housing in areas that are undersupplied, oh my gosh, they're flying off the shelf. So I think I would try to get into that. Now you have different ways to do so. You can learn how to build. You can become the developer. You can start a company and be more on, finding the deal, raising the capital, getting the debt, basically doing what I do, allowing investors to come into your projects, but you are the one finding and managing the opportunity and assets. There's that way to do it. You can wholesale. There's a lot of people wholesaling right now. There's something that I heard, and I'm actually having somebody on a podcast to talk about it. It's called a slow flip. I need to do a little bit of information to make sure it's legit, but he was telling me about the slow flip and how lucrative it is. I'm going to do a podcast. That could be a crazy one. All right, let's see. There will be no trade workers that are affordable or efficient if the mass deportation happens. I'm not totally sure on that. I agree with you that I think there's a moment. I do agree with you that there could be a time where it's inflationary. There could. I guess the argument is, and this is the part of it that I have no clue what this is going to mean. I think Elon is the wild card. If Elon really goes in and pulls out $2 trillion of our spending, I don't know what that means. That the whole inflationary, that could counterweight the inflationary component to some of this policy. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know if we've ever seen anything like that. So I think Elon is the wild card here. All right. Electricians make everything work. Skilled labor isn't cheap. No, and you know what about the electricians? I think actually the price for plumbers, electricians, it's inflated right now because there's not many of them. Now, the why there's not many of them, why I think that is, I think for a long time, society made trade school seem like you were like low level and wasn't worth anything and that you had to go to college. And so I think we had this scenario where we were, whether it was pressure from your parents, pressure from society that you had to go to college, and you just missed out on a whole other component to making money. And then before you knew it, the deficit was huge. And so the opportunity right now, yeah, you nailed it. If you go to trade school, you have the opportunity to make a lot of money right now. I wouldn't sleep on that. Plumbers too, absolutely. 100%, that's right. Americans are willing to work for reasonable wages with lower inflation, lower taxes, and prospect for future. I agree. Demand will collapse. Demand will collapse if you pull out $2 trillion in government. Okay, so Joe, this is what I meant by the counterweight, right? And this is kind of what, and look, where I will totally be real with all of you. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out like what the probabilities are, but who freaking knows? But what I do know is if you have inflationary, it's almost like when we were talking about deflation and inflation. If you have a moment that's deflationary and you see the Fed basically printing money, an inflationary outcome to combat deflation, well, then you're left with like a net neutral position. I think you can make the same argument that if you open up the economy and let the money flow, which will be inflationary, but then you have a deflationary aspect by cutting government, does that equal out? That's the part that I don't know. We will see. Exactly. Bring back the trades. Respect them. Respect them 100%. It was the work. It was the worker. Oh, it was the work smarter, not harder motive. That I think that played a part of it too. Are you afraid of a collapse in demand if entitlements are cut that drastically? Joe, I'm concerned about that one in general. So I'm not totally sure. Okay, so when we start getting into, we have our Social Security, we have our Medicare, Medicaid, what we can all agree on is it's not sustainable, right? How long do we have on Social Security? 10 years? And so we have a situation where what we are doing, we can't sustain. And probably the secondary follow-up is, and this is where I actually really agree with Elon, Joe, you're right. I know, who freaking knows. And what I will say, man, I love the questions. There's nothing more I love than us kind of trying to figure out what's what with differing opinions. The one thing I'll say, I wish we were doing this in real life. How fun would that be? Maybe that's something that we start doing. Like, this is standard econ from right and left. Yeah, I don't even think this is a partisan conversation. Would that be something you guys would be interested in? Like, should I start working on doing like live events or doing something where like we do like in-person events together? Let me know what you guys think there. But where I think Elon is right, and getting back to like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, is our population growth does not look good. And if we're in a scenario where, the youth can't support the seniors, we've got an even bigger problem in front of our hands. And so I think the question becomes, how do we sustain this? And what I do know is we're spending too much money, period. And so we have two options, potentially a combo of both, but you can either cut or you can grow. Those are your only two options, or potentially both. And so what I do know is, if we just pretend like we don't have an issue on our hands with Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid, we're wishful thinking, and this is going to be disastrous if we don't solve this. And so I'm not totally sure what to do. I just know we've got to cut how much we're spending. We're spending too much. 100% we're spending too much. I get the demographic issue. The entitlement, we're set to go belly up around 2034. Yeah. I'd say for the government to spend other people's money. Yeah. You know what? Does anybody remember Warren Buffett's quote about the politicians spending money? Do you guys remember what he said? It was so good. It was something along the lines of like, it had something to do with how they paid themselves. Do you guys remember that one? What's the Warren Buffett quote on politicians passing policy? Let me see if ChatGPT knows. Can ChatGPT get there quicker than you guys? What's the Warren Buffett quote about politicians spending money? No, that's not it. ChatGPT failed. Okay, we're not going to figure it out. We are not going to figure it out. Let's see if TikTok's still banning me. Restriction on this live? Christian, yeah, they gave me a restriction on this live. Decrease in demand for goods and services and increase in crime. Yeah, Christian, Virgo, for whatever reason, TikTok hit me with a restriction. And I wasn't even talking about anything crazy. I think because I mentioned that Trump won, that's why they blocked me, which doesn't make any sense. What do you do in your own business when your spending was outweighing your income? Did you cut back or focus on increasing income? How do you say your name? Did Django? Okay, so for my business, really good question. This is one thing they say in business: sales solves all problems. And so for us, if we were in a scenario where we had reserves and we were spending more than we were making, well, I would look at it as, okay, we're going to spend this money as a potential investment to increase our income so that we could grow. And if I could do that, I'm going for that. But if we got in a situation where there was just, we're spending more than the money coming in, we would be forced to cut back on expenses. And so I guess it would kind of depend. But I will say this: it is easier to make an extra $10,000 than to save $10,000. So I would try to make the money first, but that's not always an option. I think it's so rad how you went from pro skateboarder to not in real estate. Are there any other athletes in sports like skate, surf, snow that are investing in the same? Anthony, I think you meant skateboarding to investing in real estate. I appreciate that. You know what? There are a good amount of skaters that are investing. There's actually a lot of skateboarders that are undercover, very smart. They just don't let you know. But as far as pro skateboarders that are now like running an investment firm, I'm not sure if there are any or not. I know snowboarders that are. Like, now that I think of it, I know a couple snowboarders that are running private equity real estate firms. And then there's some like conventional pro athletes doing it too. So you focus on increasing your income. How should the federal government increase its income then? So this is the growth. So here's the two philosophies, right? I would say you have, let's say Trump and Harris philosophy. I would say the Harris philosophy would be increase taxes. So you're going to increase taxes to increase revenue to cover expenses. And then I would say Trump's philosophy was grow your way out of it. So increase GDP. So Trump would have an approach that would be more like it would almost be more like a real estate investor, actually, where in real estate, the amount of debt you have, like the total number, is irrelevant. What really matters is your debt to equity ratio. And so he would make the argument that, if you have a property that's worth $60 million and you got $50 million of debt, if you could get your property up to $90 million of debt, well, the $50 million is no longer a problem. It could even climb to 60 and it's not an issue. So I would say those are the two different philosophies. One is grow your way out. The other is increase taxes. I don't know. Do you guys think that's a fair view? What do you guys think? Do you think I got that right? Did I miss anything? Anthony, you got it. Appreciate you, G. Moon Bear, how are you? I hope all is well. I hope everything is great. We got to get you on the podcast. Come on the podcast. I would love to have you on, and I love that you pay attention and are into finance and investing. I would love to have you on if you'd want to come on. Josh, okay, that was a fair view. Okay, good. Is this a good time to hold real estate? Just so you know, for me personally, I'm buying and holding everything. And I'm planning on holding it for a very long time. That's well put. Okay, cool. That's a fair view. Appreciate the perspective. Okay, good. What's your motivation in investing in real estate businesses? Just increasing your money, or what are the other reasons? Abba Bar. Okay, so yes, Moon, I am going to DM you. Let's schedule a time. We would absolutely love to have you on. I think we would have such a good podcast. I hope you're well. What's my motivation in investing in real estate? I would say there's a handful of them. One, when we sold St. Archer, well, go a step further. Let's take a step back. When we started St. Archer, we had to raise money from investors. And when we raised money, it was a friends and family round. We had, I don't know, maybe 50-something investors. And they were seriously like friends. AJ, how are you? I love you, brother. Hey, listen to this answer. And then I want you to respond as well. Actually, I should see if I pull you in on this one. Let me see if I can. Oh, it's only going to let me pull. One thing I need to figure out is how you bring people into the live when you're using a streaming surface. Okay, so for me, so when we brought investors on with our craft brewery, when we sold it, one of the best experiences I ever had was handing checks to my friends and family. It was the best. Like, we would hand checks to people and there would be tears. Like, it was freaking awesome. I loved the feeling. And so I would say one of the driving factors on why I do this is I want to put as much money as I possibly can in my investors' pockets, because a lot of my investors are my friends and family. And so I love that feeling. I would say the second part, I like the challenge of growing business. And so kind of what drives me in a lot of cases is goals. I like setting goals and trying to achieve them. And for my business, I have the business goal that I'm trying to hit, and I enjoy the journey to get there. And then I would say the last one, like, yeah, of course, like I'm building my wealth as well. The bigger my company gets, the better I perform for investors, the more money I make as well. And so I enjoy the challenge, and I like the fact that if you succeed, you make a lot of money as well. So I would say those are probably the three factors on why I'm growing my business. It's Drake. When raising capital, should I syndicate and worry about securities issues, or just use one investor per project, especially for SFR investing? Really good question. It's going to come down to size. If you're doing SFR, you typically don't need more than one investor. And so I would recommend having a handful of investors and bringing one person in per deal until you get to the point where you're going to start scaling. And then it might make sense for you to do a syndication. But it really comes down to dollars. Typically, if you need, I don't know, let's say anywhere from 50,000 to a couple million, try to keep it one investor. If you're going to start looking at like deploying, I don't know, $10 million and up, then you're probably looking at syndications. How much did you make throughout your skate career? Flax Matt. How much did I make income-wise, or how much did I make total, or how much wealth did I build just by being a pro skateboarder? Give me some clarity and I'll give you the answer. Or if you want to know all, I'll hit you with all. Appreciate it, man. You got it. My pleasure. Okay, so for Flax Matt, if I don't hear, I'm going to try to keep up for your response. Thanks for the response. Yeah, remember when you started St. Archer, coming from skateboarding, I found it actually cool. And like the crew that's were involved, I appreciate that. That was a very fun time. All right. Okay, Matt, I'm not seeing your question here. All right, let me peek over. Let's see. That's wild. I haven't heard anything crazy this whole time. Virgo, I know. I was tripping on it too. I don't know what, I wonder if what maybe happened, this could be on TikTok. Maybe there was somebody in there that didn't like what I said and just people started reporting it. That could be. How much did you make throughout your total career? Okay, so the majority of my career, I made probably about $90,000 a year. I had a few years where I was making about 150. And then I had the last few years on DC, one of my shoes just went nuts. And I probably made like $400,000 a year for the last 3 years because my shoe did so well. And so that was, I don't know what you want. I have no clue what the total would be. I had a 14-year career. My investable assets, I probably got my net worth. See, the hard part is I started a business while I was skating, and then that business, it like 5x'd my net worth, maybe even more. But I probably got to about $1 million of investable assets, excluding my primary residence, through just skateboarding alone. Maybe I got pretty close to that. And a lot of that came from, one, investing early. So I had 14 years of compound interest. I started investing right away. And then I started investing in storage. That ended up being pretty good for me. So that's probably where I landed, I would say. Hey, Mikey, remember me? I helped you find the mac and cheese at my work. Godzilla legend. How are you? Shoes are definitely the biggest money maker as as sponsors go. That's right. I don't know the energy drinks though, but I'm sure Red Bull. Yeah, the energy drinks paid well too. Like on the low end, you were making 100 grand a year. On the high end, like dude, people were making $500,000 a year to $1 million a year. I just never had a drink sponsor, but if I did, yeah, that would have been pretty sick. I would have loved that. All right, Richard, been a huge fan for so many years. I really admire your choices during the skate and investing life. Thank you. I appreciate that, my man. Oh, yeah, I still go back to the DVS video watching your monologue about skateboarding. I know. That was crazy, right? All right, let me go over to the multi-stream. All right. All right, everybody. I've got to take off in 10 minutes. So let's get, if any other questions you have, let's get some questions stacked on the board. Any way I can help, anything you're going through, you need advice on, let me know. Save money on energy drinks too. That's right. How far do you look ahead for your planning and strategizing? Do you think much about the population numbers in our country and across the globe? Really good question. So when I'm forward looking, I'm looking at both actually. I'm looking at short term, and I'm trying to make decisions for the next 1 to 3 years, and then I'm making long term moves. I would probably say actually more of my decision making is long term moves. What am I doing today that's going to benefit me 10 to 20 years from now? That's probably where I land on the majority of my thinking. AJ Osborne with a big one, interest rates up or down. What is going to happen to interest rates? So interest rates ticked up today. Okay, the economists are split on this one, gang. I would say that, and look, it's going to depend on the time. If you're asking me where we're at 2 years from now, I think 2 years from now, interest rates are lower in 2 years than they are today. Where are interest rates a year from now? I'm not sure we get there a year from now. My expectation with interest rates prior to this election was I thought we were going to sit, like if you're looking at a 30-year fixed, I thought a 30-year fixed was going to sit around 5 to 5.5 for a little bit, about 12 months. Now there's a lot of question marks. I think there's going to be a moment where we're going to try to figure out what's going on. Did anybody see what happened with the House? Did Republicans take majority of the House? That's probably going to play a factor in this. I think you'll actually, believe it or not, you may see a little bit more stability if Dems control House and Republicans control President and Senate. You can definitely make an argument that we'll see a little bit more stability. I think if they don't, we're going to have this moment where you're trying to figure out kind of what's what. I would say if I were to guess, 2026 interest rates are down would be my guess. But like who just came out? Was it somebody just came out and said interest rates need to go to 3.5% right now? Who was that? It wasn't Goldman, was it? So I don't know, AJ. To ask your question, how we're looking at our debt right now from our business, we are doing, all of our apartments have been mini perm debt. So we're giving ourselves the opportunity to roll our construction loan into permanent financing. And so in 4 years from the point of us building, we have the option to refi. And my guess is 40 years from now, I'm going to be doing a cash out refi. But if for some reason interest rates go up, we're putting ourselves in a position where we don't have to we're removing the refi risk. And so, what my partners would say is, what would they say? They're cautiously optimistic is what my partners would say. For me, I'm a little bit more optimistic than they are, but I think that highlights why I picked the partners I have. I'm an optimistic person. Like I personally think I am very bullish on what the next really 10 years look like. Just so everybody knows, I was very bullish 3 months ago. I was very bullish a year and a half ago. And so kind of where the checks and balances in my company, like I've got a couple people that are naturally not optimistic, or they're not, they're more, I guess you could say they're more glass half empty. They're the ones that go, okay, Mikey, you're over here. We're going to figure out what's what. And we typically land in the middle. I think that's a very balanced and healthy approach. I think that puts my company in a position where we're maximizing upside while limiting downside or downside risk. If rates dropped under 4% suddenly, wouldn't that cause inflation? Yeah, I do not think we should drop interest rates all of a sudden. And I don't think interest rates are going to go that low again. Like, I think 2019 interest rates, I think that's eventually where we get to, and I think that's the next norm, or the new norm, would be my guess. New build or renovation? New build for us. All new build for us. TikTok, he kept saying bullshit. Who, I did? I don't think I said bullshit. I think I said bullish. Yeah. What other live are you on? Christian, I'm on all of them. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm on them all. The biggest economic concern is heavy tariffs driving up inflation and, okay, yeah, trade wars. Agree. Billy Tucker, I'm sorry if I butch that. Yes, that is a concern, 100%. So I would say the economists that are forecasting high interest rates and high inflation, I would say that's their concern. I would say where economists aren't factoring in, and this is actually what I think we're going to see. I think Trump uses tariffs as a tool. I think it's a negotiating tool. I think he talks crap about 200% tariffs. I think that's only to force people's hands. I don't think you actually see him throw those type of tariffs on. And so if he uses it as a tool, I don't think we're going to see the inflation. If he were to start throwing tariffs everywhere, okay, yes, I think that would be inflationary. And so the question just becomes, what's he do? Do you think that's a fair outlook? That's how I see it. I mean, look at his story, right? What does he say? Who is the company, right? They were going to build in Mexico. I told them I'd tariff them 200%. They built here, right? Like, he's a deal junkie. Like, I think he uses it for deal creation would be my thought. But what do you guys think? Like, do you think I'm accurate in that or no? I'm pro tariffs slowly gaining more traction. Okay. The car company. Yeah. Josh, I guess what I'm asking everyone on here, do you guys think he just tariffs everyone? Or do you guys think he uses tariffs as a tool to negotiate companies to come to America? I guess that's what we're trying to figure out, right? Trump knows how to make money. Remember Wood from Canada as a developer? Ouch, that hurt for a bit. That absolutely did. Asylum, 100%. He was talking about the huge car giant. That's right. I don't think it will be fully talk in the future. Okay, so Brendan, you think he's going to implement it? Use it as a tool. Okay, I think as a tool. So it looks like he knows how to go bankrupt. Okay, so it looks like we're split on it. I would say 50-50 is what it sounds like. 50% thinks he's going to tariff and blow it. The other 50% thinks they're going to use it. He's going to use it as a tool. Okay. He's 100% going to use it as a negotiating tool. Chad, that's what I think too. I'm a Reagan style Republican and believe in free markets. Me too. I believe in free markets also. There are different purposes, true. Same strategy against our enemies, threaten the big stick. Okay, so maybe it's 70-30. This is what it's looking like. I would say 70% think it's a tool. 30% think it's going to be implemented. So we will all find out. Hopefully, and this is what I'm praying for. And just so everybody knows, I'd pray for, if Harris won, I'd be praying for her as well. I'm praying that he does a phenomenal job. I'm praying that he does great. I'm praying that our country is blessed because of it. I'm praying that we're in a good position to move forward. I'm praying that our kids have a great place to live in. And just so everybody knows, if she were to win, I'd be praying for her too to succeed. I want our leaders to succeed 100%, because if they succeed, we as people live better. All right, everybody, I've got to jump off. 4:00. I got to start getting ready to get home and have dinner. I love you all. Thank you for being here. We had a great conversation. Very disappointed that TikTok restricted the live. I felt like this was PG. I don't even feel like I pushed the boundaries. I felt like this was like a very good, healthy, and kind of soft conversation. Little concerning about TikTok. All right, everybody. Love you guys. Have a great rest of the week. I will see you all